Hello, I'm on site here at Embedded World 2026 and I'm on the DigiKey booth, and right now I'm joined by Jason, who is the founder of BeagleBoard, and Rob, who's an applications engineer at DigiKey. And we're going to be talking about some of the new products launched at the show this week. But before we do that, I know you guys have been on a couple of my videos before, but for those that haven't seen us, can you just give a brief introduction to who you are and what you do? Jason, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm a founder at BeagleBoard, which is a nonprofit, and
Easy.
CTO.
Rob?
In charge. I'm Rob. Do a lot of Debian builds, kernel builds, CI builds. I work for DigiKey, and we sell a lot of Beagle products.
The distro.
And on the board foundation.
Distro deity. Yep.
Yeah,
One of our
distros.
board members.
Yeah.
And for those perhaps not familiar with BeagleBoard, can you give an overview of the company?
Sure. It's a nonprofit organization based out of the U.S. And we want to try to make it easier to develop with the embedded systems that are using open source, especially Linux and Zephyr.
Mm-hmm.
We want to try to increase the access, the literacy, the ownership, and the longevity of the systems that people are using to create the things that run society.
Fantastic. And it's, yeah.
We want to make sure that everyone can get it, use it, debug with it, and just, yeah.
Fantastic. And it's been a year since I last spoke with you both, so maybe you can give me an update on how BeagleBoard has been over the last 12 months and how it's evolved.
Pocket Beagle 2 has been fantastic.
Because we launched it about a year ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's been in that last year, but we've had a hard time keeping up with the demand, and I think now is kind of a good time to talk about it because DigiKey actually is able to hold a little bit of stock on it.
Yeah. But we'll see. Maybe next week they'll be on again.
Yeah, maybe. So
It's been a very hot product.
catching up with the demand on that, improving the teaching materials and the different doing the distro builds, but then all the other stuff that kind of runs off of what Robert creates, and then building on that to teach people how to build with the embedded Linux systems off the Pocket Beagle 2.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of it, and then maybe work on some new products too.
We can talk about those in a minute. But I'm interested to hear what key trends you've seen in open source hardware and the maker community over the last 12 months as well.
It's hard to ignore the elephant in the room is the cost of memory has gone up dramatically. Yep. So I think the demand for trimming the fat in the systems, figuring out how to solve problems with much less memory has gone up tremendously. I think that's been a big trend, and I think it's also causing a lot more interest in systems like Zephyr that don't take up as much memory as something like Linux, right? So we're doing more and more with Zephyr, not just Linux.
Well, the nice thing too is that when we did the Pocket Beagle last year, Pocket Beagle 2, it only had 512 megs of memory. So a lot of people had to get used to it, not quite as much as they were, but.
Yeah, that's true. So can you tell us about this one that you've got in your hand? So Pocket Beagle 2 Industrial, yeah?
This is for those that
couldn't use 512.
that 512 is not enough, right? So this moves up to a gigabyte of memory, and it's industrial temperature rated memory, right? So this will run up to 105?
105 or 125, somewhere in there.
Maybe it's.
I'm gonna look at how Kingston does it.
Look at it on the specs.
Yeah,
but
it's more than the default.
More than water boils at, right?
Yeah.
So you can work with that sort of heat, and the memory is rated for that. The processor is rated for that. The whole system's rated for maybe 85C.
Yep.
But for very high industrial temperatures, also down to -40, which for a lot of electronics can actually be harder to go into ultra cold environments. So this has got that extra double the memory, double the RAM on it, and it's got the flash, right? So the industrial related 64 gigabytes of onboard flash. So you have a reliable system to run off of. That flash even has modes where you can put it even to higher reliability modes by putting the cells into states that allow you to give some redundancy so that you get really, really long shelf life, like working life for your systems. So all those people that have been building stuff with Pocket Beagle 2 now have an option to make them more robust, longer lived, more hardened.
Yep. Especially those that always looked at it, why is there a blank spot and the pads were there? Well, now there's a chip there.
Yeah.
So this is the new industrial.
What type of applications are we talking about?
Like the one of the things that really sets the BeagleBoards, and especially like the Pocket Beagle 2 apart. Of course, it is open hardware.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's designed for really low latency. So people can build products that can. We increase the speed going to the Pocket Beagle to the Pocket Beagle 2 of these programmable real-time units from 200 megahertz to 333 megahertz. And they have single cycle I/O to the pins. So you can go like, you can generate waveforms that are half the clock frequency of the processor itself in code, right? So you can create these super type control loops. And for making a lot of different things that need really low latency, if you want to do drones, there's support for doing drones in ArduPilot. There's the Bella creates this audio synthesizer, and like if you're doing music creation, you really care about the amount of time between you hit the button and you synthesize the sound to output. The Bella can do this in half a millisecond from the time where it synthesizes some physical interaction, like from could be a button, could be an accelerometer, could be all sorts. Half a millisecond from the time it's sent that to generating synthesized audio output using those PRUs. Lighting controllers, because you can make all these different custom waveforms. So there's folks at Cult Lights that have done some really fantastic things to create Christmas lighting displays. And there's hundreds of applications that have been built on the Pocket Beagle 2 that now have this ability to get a much higher performance, going to a quad-core 64-bit processor.
With the GPU enabled.
With the GPU enabled through
with Vulkan
open source, with open source drivers, right? So it's now, there's no closed source blob for doing Vulkan, right? So if you want to use the GPU for acceleration, you can use Mesa, which is the open source project that people leverage for utilizing the GPU. So that gives you another way to kind of speed up everything that you're doing on the board. And unlike past systems that you want to use the GPU, you have to use some closed source driver. Yeah. And we don't.
Okay. And this is something that's available now, yeah?
It's available now.
Fantastic.
There's inventory at DigiKey today at a very good price.
Excellent. Well, something else I do want to talk about is this little thing around your neck, which I'm very intrigued by. So can you tell us more about the badge?
So this one's on pre-order now, but this is a $100 computer that includes a 4.2-inch e-paper display that you see here is my badge. But of course, we run LVGL and MicroPython or other types of graphical tools to create user interfaces on that. And it's got the controls that you need to make it interactive, not just wearable. It also has the ability to charge a lithium ion battery and run off of that at low power. So it's leveraging a new processor from TI. The AM62L.
Yep.
So that's a new low-power processor line from Texas Instruments that has a dual-core A53 running at 1.25 gigahertz. So it's a really good mix, like very high for microcontroller world, extremely high for microcontroller world, but at a really nice point for microprocessor systems running things like Linux.
Yeah.
So this can run Linux or Zephyr. We provide support for that. If you look at the hardware, there's also a lot of connectivity on here. We have, I use my Stu sticker. We have the BeagleMod 3301 on here, the 1216 module, which is a Wi-Fi 6 at 2.4 gigahertz and Bluetooth Low Energy. So that's great for getting that Wi-Fi connection, connecting to BLE sensors. And then we've also got a LoRaWAN modem on here that you can use to connect to low power, long range LoRa networks, right? So like for long distances and otherwise noisy environments like trade shows. So it's great for communicating and things like that. And there's a bunch of onboard sensors. There's a light sensor, there's an accelerometer, there's a temperature and humidity sensor. Of course, it's got to have RGB blinky LEDs.
Yeah.
There's also a 7-segment LED, and a lot of the things that you'll see on the Tech Lab cape that works with the Pocket Beagle 2. So all that work that we've been doing to create tutorials to teach people how to do development of Linux on Pocket Beagle 2 in the Tech Lab, you can actually run on the Beagle badge because it's got those same controls, right? It's got the buttons. It's got the 7-segment LED. It's got the I2C accelerometer. So it can do all those different interfaces that you need to kind of dive in deeper and learn about Linux and Zephyr, right? So it's not just to use it, it's a teaching tool for actually going and learning those systems in the first place.
Okay.
With something that's easy to use initially, but then gives you lots of options to dive in and dig deeper. Lots and lots of expansion. There's microbus, the USB,
Grove connectors,
the Grove connector, 2 quick connectors. You can ignore the dangling thing until we get to that one. Micro SD card. There's also an onboard SPI flash to provide boot for it.
Well, now that you've mentioned it, you might as well talk about.
I might as well talk about this thing dangling off the end, right? So connected up over quick here is the Beagle Connect Zeppto. This is the Beagle Connect microcontroller family. So most of what we do is single board computers.
Yes.
But the Beagle Connect Freedom was our first foray into microcontrollers, and it was wireless. This is wired over I2C. You can do other modes on that. But this is an ultra low cost development board. It's got a TI MSP M0, which is a Cortex M0 Plus. We're using the L1117, which has got 120K of flash and 16K of RAM. But important for our community is that it runs Zephyr. And so we can still use that Zephyr RTOS all the way from a really big system in this, for the badge comparatively, to a tiny microcontroller and still run that same RTOS.
Yeah.
And allows you to run things like Arduino Core, MicroPython, the microblocks, right? Don't forget that one. So you can get, with microblocks, you get a really easy entry where you can do graphical based programming for targeting it. And this is targeting at $1. So,
wow.
Right, that's our goal, is to make this available for $1 to everybody. So
yeah.
Very low cost development platform.
So what's your vision for the Beagle badge? What would you like people to be using it for?
It's anything.
It's a learning tool. It's education and it's
absolutely. Like, I think that what we could probably do with something like the Beagle badge is this is actually capable of running, big web servers, things that you can run Visual Studio Code on here and actually serve up the pages, or you could put local UIs that you can on here directly that you could use to create programs for your Beagle Connect Zeppto.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the goal is to actually create environments where you can use this for programming this. So for a $99 computer in a classroom,
yes.
or even not just classrooms, right? People wanting to do more with sensors, wanting to do it in their own personal labs or in their homes.
Yeah.
Right? $99 platform that you can use to actually create the programs for the $1. You should have 50 of these microcontroller board that you can teach to do things so that when you pull it away from here, run it off of a battery, that it does what you want it to do and not what somebody else wanted their device to do, right? So you give more people control, right? So I think that's the vision of these.
Yeah.
Both separately and together, is to give a platform for people to learn to dive deeper into the technology, the shoulders of the giants we're building on top of, and give them a really low-cost entryway to do that.
Yeah, and it's obviously been well received. You got Best in Show, I see.
Yes, we did.
Fantastic. Well, seeing as, it's been 12 months since I've caught up with you, where would you like, or where do you think BeagleBoard will be in the next 12 months?
Where the community takes us, so I never know. We wake up every day.
A lot of this was built on customer feedback of what was missing in the original Pocket Beagle too. Yeah. It's like people saw the eMMC, like, well, we want one of the eMMC. We had people like, just a little bit more memory, and so fine-tune the little things, and so.
And And I think that as we do more with microcontrollers, like in the Beagle Connect line, I think it's easier for us to do more quick spins based on what people want to go and create. Doing more of the accessories that allow these things to be easier to use as well. And I think that's something the community can directly impact and we can get out very quickly.
Yeah.
We're already looking doing different variations of this design.
Yeah.
But we never know what to expect, and that's the fun of it.
Exactly. I look forward to our conversation next year. Well, thank you both for bringing these along to talk about. I'm very excited, obviously, about both, but I think this is a fantastic application. So thank you very much for sharing it with us, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks, Paige.
Thank you.
Thanks.